Blog Talk Radio.
It's that monthly breakdown on one of the, I would say, great works and peace that we are witnessing here in the early parts of the 21st century in regards to how our people deal with oppression. Tonight's show is titled, this is part 2 of the Unconquered with my guest, Dr. Tolagbe Ogunleye. The number to call in for tonight's show is 515-605-9783. I repeat, 515-605-9783. Press 1 for question and comments. This is going to be another continuum of the series of the book. And if you never got the book, you can get it on Amazon or on Kindle, titled The Unconquered One, by Dr. Tolagbe Ogunleye, the history of the Yamasee and Gulagisi tribes of North America and how they dealt with their oppressors going on from the late 1700s to late 1800s. So none other than do, I'm going to open the mic. Doctor, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. I'm sorry I had to let that out because, if you were listening last night, it was very interesting. I think a lady was so eager, got mad that, a few of the brothers were trying to say that black men should be policed in to where we say we shouldn't have people that are living that, sexual lifestyle in our movement. And I guess some of the sisters have a problem with it. Not all, but the ones that called in last night, they had a problem. You understand, Doctor?
I understand completely.
And I'm not sure what's your take on that before we go into tonight's. In regards, do you feel that people that live a homosexual lifestyle and broadcast to other people around the community, you think they have a space where they say they can fight for the black struggle?
Do they have a what so they can fight for the black struggle?
Like the ones that say they're gay and they want to fight in regards to black people or, play that role in regards to the struggle of black people in regards to fighting what they need, the rights for this country and, all the, everything.
I guess I'm torn on that one. In the sense that they have a right to fight for in terms of being oppressed as a melanated people. I think they have a right to engage in that fight. But in terms of the homosexuality, I don't support that, not even one bit. And I think that's what's really wrong with our community. And a lot of people are going to get mad, and they won't just try and punish you. They'll think of ways to punish you. And we've been punished all along for speaking our mind for what we believe is right. So, you know, if the punishment comes my way, that's fine and dandy, but I don't support it. And I think that's what's wrong with our people today. And one of the reasons why we're not fighting in the way that we should be fighting, we're always thinking of these silly things to do that have nothing to do with setting us free. All that singing and marching and praying, that's not doing anything for us. And I think that comes out of that agenda where I'm tired, and I'm not trying to offend any of the brothers, but I'm tired of looking at grown-ass men singing and crying and praying about their rights, you know. And I think it's, you know, men have been taught to basically, too many men have been taught to act as like they're women, basically. They engage in activities that a woman would do. And I think it comes out of that agenda. And I'm not saying all men, because there are a lot of strong men out there. And, you know, they're fighting a good fight. But they could do it so much better if they had some of these other men who weren't trying to act like women joining in the fight as well. I was watching a video of this woman who was being beat up by two European women, two troglodytes. And she's yelling, help me, somebody help me. They're trying to take my bag from me, help me. And someone is recording, but no one bothered to go in to help her. You know, and then one man came up, but he still wouldn't try and help to get those women off of her. He didn't have to punch those women or beat those women up, but he sure could have tried to hold them to keep them from getting at the woman and, you know, helping her to get her bag back. But that didn't happen, you know, and I guess we're afraid. Well, you know, the way the school system is set up, you know, they have this so-called no-tolerance policy. So if someone is bullying, that's why I guess bullying is so prevalent. You know, if someone is bullying you or they hit you and you hit them back, you're not only is the person who did the fighting supposedly in trouble, but the person who tried to defend him or herself is in trouble as well. And I think it all comes out of that whole agenda. Even if you look at the books now that students are being asked to read, I know when I was teaching, there was one book that students were supposed to read, and I guess they're still reading it, and it's called Am I Blue? You know, and it's all about, you know, accepting the whole homosexual agenda. And I'm sure at this point there's so many more books, but that's what's going on. I think it's time that it stopped because as long as that agenda continues to be the focus of our community, we're going to stay in the condition that we're in, you know, and people are laughing at us basically. I don't know. It has to stop. So, yes, in terms of fighting for their rights as melanated people, I think they should fight for their rights as melanated people. And maybe some of them, they'll, you know, develop a different mindset and realize that what they're doing is not helping the community. It's basically they're making themselves extinct, you know. But in terms of the whole homosexual agenda, I don't support that at all, not even a little bit.
Okay. All right. Well said. But let's go into tonight's discussion. If you want to tell the readers what you'll be discussing tonight. And remind again, people to call in. The call number for tonight's show is 515-605-9783. I repeat, 515-605-9783. Press 1. Have a question or comment. All right, let us begin, Dr. Ogunleye.
Okay, so I guess I want to start by saying that one of the reasons, the main reason why I decided to write the book, and I have a screenplay that I've written based on the book, or the book is based on the screenplay. The reason why I wrote both of them is because I'm sick and tired of all these images of us on TV that portray us as these mealy-mouthed people, didn't fight back, accepted their condition as being enslaved or being enslaved, and just waited on the good Lord Jesus to come and set them free. And that's not the case at all. And there's so much information out there to the contrary that we just not have been exposed to. And I think the thing that really infuriated me was when Roots was remade. Now, Alex Haley didn't write the first Roots. Now, here you come with a second creation of the Roots story, and I said, enough is enough. And I had just retired. I retired in February of 2016, and they're advertising, I guess, at that particular time. Advertising at that particular time, or maybe even prior to my retiring, they're advertising about Roots, coming out again. And I said, oh, no, hell no, I have to do something about this. Already, I got my doctorate in 1995, and I dealt with the Gullah Geechee people and the war that they fought against, or the wars they fought against the United States corporation. And they fought 3 wars. And my dissertation dealt with that. And my area of specialization during my time working on my PhD was African resistance to enslavement. So the whole writing of the historical novel and the screenplay was something in the works a long time ago. But I consciously sat down to write them and went about trying to do what was necessary to have someone pick up the movie because I just got sick and tired of seeing those images of us on the plantation singing, crying, moaning, and just waiting for our time to die so that we would be free. And so that's how it started. And I wanted people to know what I knew about us resisting and fleeing our enslavers and doing what was necessary to establish our own settlements, our own communities. And it's something that we need to do today. And so I hope that by writing that maybe people would read the material that I've written. And I do have several articles that I've written on the subject matter, as well as the historical novel and the screenplay. So I've been on this for a very, very long time. If you look at a lot of my articles, they appear in the Journal of Black Studies, for example, that deal with this population, the Gullah Geechee people, and everything that they did to form their own communities and their fight against the United States. So I have several articles that I've written about this population that I'm going to talk about tonight. So this is nothing new. It's been in the works. I started working on my PhD actually in 1988. So we're talking about 20 years of working with this population of people. And I just want people to know we fought back. And although I deal primarily with the people in South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, who ran away from their enslavers or fled their enslavers and started settlements in Florida, there were other settlements. For instance, you had autonomous settlements in Louisiana. You had a brother there by the name of Juan. They called him Juan San Malo. And if you know the Spanish language, I'm not at all good with the French language, so I'm not going to even attempt. But the word malo means bad. So they called him Saint Bad, basically, Juan Saint Bad, because he fled his enslavers. He fought against the French in Louisiana, and they established settlements there. So I touch on that a little bit. You also had the people in Dismal Swamp who fought against their enslavers. So what was going on in Florida was not anything new. As a matter of fact, there's a book by a man who's no longer with us, a European man, Herbert Aptheker, and the name of the book is, I think it's Slavery Votes, but I think it might be 300 Slavery Votes. I can't remember the exact title. But if you put,
I know you're talking about. 1 second. Hold on. Let me find it. 1 second. The author's name is American Negro Slavery Votes by Herbert Aptheker.
Aptheker, right?
Aptheker. Yep. Yeah. I have
right.
Book.
So and he was one of the first Europeans to even acknowledge that something was going on here in the United States of America. We'll use that terminology for now, because a lot of people say, no, all of the revolts occurred in the Caribbean and Central and South America. The Negroes, as we were called, they didn't do anything here in the United States of America. And one of the reasons they didn't do anything is because it was too cold. So we didn't try to free ourselves at all. And so for the longest time, people wouldn't even talk about anything that occurred. And when I started working on my PhD, I said, no, we had to resist. And then I found out there were so many ways that we resisted our enslavers. For instance, the women would grind up glass very fine to make it look like flour, and they would put that into the food that they were preparing for their enslavers, and they would put a little, so they didn't kill them all at once. It would take them a while to die, and they would bleed internally. But all the while, they're eating this food, and they're thinking, this stuff tastes good, this stuff is great, not knowing that they were being killed. So you had women doing that for a very, very long time. You also had women that would wear these beautiful-looking necklaces that they would make. They would carve them out of wood and all sorts of other materials. They'd make them out of all sorts of other material. And inside of those little, they had like, not lockets, because the lockets, you would open them up, and they would show pictures of, family members and that sort of stuff. But they were little vials. And in those, but you wouldn't know that they were vials. They just like pretty little ornaments. But inside of those vials was poison. And they worked in the house and in the kitchen, and they would drop a few drops every so often in the food, and they would kill their enslavers that way. Something else they would do, they would burn down the kitchen, and then they would play like they were too stupid to know what was going on, and that's how they would burn down the houses. And the Europeans, the troglodytes, got wind of what was going on, and then they started building their kitchens separate from their the main house, because they knew that if they built the kitchen attached to the main house, invariably the whole house would burn down. So they're constantly thinking of ways to resist. Even in terms of the enslaver, the troglodytes, raping the women and the children who were of childbearing age, they would think of all sorts of ways to abort the children that were produced from rape, and or they would create birth controls that they would use to so that they couldn't get pregnant if they were being forced to be breeders. So they're doing all of these things in order to be free. And I'm just mentioning a couple of things that were done, in order to make themselves free. So you had some plantations where the women are being raped, or the enslaver is forcing the men and women to work as breeders, and still no children are being born. And they're scratching their head and wondering what's the deal here. They look like they're really strong and robust. So why aren't children being produced? It was because they had women on the plantation and men as well who were using contraceptives or abortive messages to women from having children. So all of this is going on at the same time. And, of course, you had Gabriel Prosser, and you had Denmark Vesey, Denmark Vesey's in South Carolina. He has his revolt after the first Gullah Geechee War in South Carolina, but clearly affected by that. He's also affected by the Haitian Revolution and what went on during that particular time. So you have a lot of stuff that's going on, and let's not forget about Nat Turner. So you have all this stuff that's going on during that particular time, but we're not being told about any of this. And I think that kind of helped us to think of ourselves as being just useless people who were incapable, cowardly people who were incapable of doing anything except waiting to die so that we could be free, and that wasn't the case at all. So I start, looking at these people, and I think it's important, especially now because there's just so much information that's coming out. Trade in enslaved people, we always think about Africa. And there were some Africans who were enslaved in this country, but we really need to deal with the enslavement of indigenous people in this country because they were the first ones who were enslaved. And they moved the people around, took them to different parts of what was called Turtle Island, we'll call it all Turtle Island, so that they would not be able to find their way back to the area that they came from, and they were enslaved that way. And we have to really, really come to terms with that. And there's so much information that's coming out now, and you're looking at the pictures of the people, the indigenous people who are around, and if you read the diaries of Europeans, the troglodytes, or you look at the literature that they were creating during that particular time, the books that they were reading during that particular time, they'll tell you over and over again that, the first people to be enslaved in this country were the copper-colored indigenous people. The Geechee people deal with were some of the first people to be enslaved and removed from their land. One of the places that the Geechee people lived on, we know they were in South Carolina, Georgia, in that area, and they lived along what was called, and it's still called, the Ogeechee River. They lived along the Ogeechee River and its tributaries. Someplace else they lived, and we're not told about that. But if you go and you look at the primary resources, you find that information. They look at a place now that's called Amelia Island. And Amelia Island right now is known as one of the destinations that European people go to relax and vacation and so forth. If you read the information, they were also on that island. And something else that's important that tells you how long they have been on Turtle Island as opposed to coming from Africa, they had mounds. The Geechee people had mounds. And the mounds aren't some Johnny-come-lately thing that was built maybe 200 or 300 years ago. Some of those mounds are thousands, tens of thousands of years ago, and the Geechee people are some of the ones who built mounds in this country. And that's really important. Just like the Yamasee, who I talk about in my book, built mounds. Because that's a Johnny-come-lately. People even wondering, is that even really real? If you talk to some of the old people, they'll tell you, well, when did we become Gullah? I never heard that word before. We're Geechees. Okay, so if you go and you look at the information, you'll find out the Geechees were building mounds. The people were building mounds during that particular time. And if you talk to some of the older Yamasee people and the older Geechee people, they will tell you that the Yamasee and the Geechee were cousins. So we really need to deal with that. But anyhow, you find the Yamasee people in Florida, or what became known as Florida. You have the Geechee people living in what became known as the islands near Florida. That were changed to the name Amelia Island. Prior to that, it was called Fernandina Island when the Spaniards were in control of that area. Prior to that, when the French were there, they called it St. Mary's Island. But the Geechee people refer to it as being Guale, if I'm saying that right. And if I'm not, I apologize, but it's Guale. So the original name of what now we call Amelia Island was called Guale Island. And some people say that's where the word Gullah comes from, that they were really the Guale people. So you find them being forced out of their settlements, their communities, all over, being enslaved by the British people as they move into South Carolina and saying to themselves, we're not taking this crap. We're getting out of here. And so the Spaniards during this particular time were in control of Florida, or what became known as Florida. And so staying in South Carolina, being enslaved by the British, they took off running to other areas and they established settlements. Now the Spaniards knew that they were starting these settlements, so they decided that they would put together a decree. And so in 1685, they put together a decree telling the people who were enslaved in South Carolina that if they could get to Florida, they would live free among the Spaniards. Now the British, they're going into what became known as South Carolina in the as early as the 1660s. You have, for instance, William Hilton, a pirate, and now he owns all the Hilton hotels and Hilton resorts. He was a pirate, and his family is still in charge of or in control of parts of South Carolina. That's where you have Hilton Head come from. So you have them there killing up the people, they're maiming and raping and just doing committing all sorts of heinous acts against the people, and they began to flee. Now this is even before the founding of or the establishment of what we now call Charlestown, South Carolina. And that was founded in 1670, or the land was taken from the people in 1670 by the British. So you have all these people saying, I'm not staying around for this, I'm getting out of here. And so they began to immediately run. Florida was a good place to run, and so that's where they went so that they could be free. And the Spaniards took advantage of the situation because they were at war with the British. So offering sanctuary to these melanated people, these indigenous people, offering them sanctuary in Florida was a way of them taking beginning to protect themselves from the British. And so you have these people, these indigenous people running back to Florida. You have people running from Florida away from the Spaniards, and you have some people running to Florida to get away from the British. And that's how you find the Gullah Geechee people in Florida. And they're fleeing. They started in the late 1700s, and they 17th century, excuse me, and they continued to flee all the way into the 19th century. And they're building these communities, and these communities that they're building were beautiful settlements, and they dotted the whole area of Florida. And if you talk to European people, they'll tell you, there were these, little runaways that were living in the marshes and the hammocks of Florida, near the swamps. But it was only a few people. They know they're lying. And we know they're lying because these people, the Gullah Geechee people, fought 3 wars against the United States. They fought more than that, but they fought 3 major wars against the United States Corporation. The first one was fought in 1816 or 1817, depending upon who's writing the material. Some people started with the destruction of that Negro fort. They fight another war against the United States Corporation in a declared war against the United States Corporation in 1835, and they win. They win both wars, and then they fight another war against the United States Corporation in the 1850s, approximately 1855, the war, and they fight until 1858. And then they leave the area and they go into Oklahoma, and they participate in the founding of all of those communities in Oklahoma that we now call Black Wall Street. You have the people that are responsible, some of the people, the Gullah Geechee people responsible for the founding of those settlements. They go into Mexico, and they're living there, and they become known as the Macogos people. So they're constantly fighting. You also have some running to Cuba to get away from the Europeans, and you have them going to the Bahamas and other areas. But the important thing is they're fighting these wars, and they're winning. And the Europeans are baffled. And this is important to say that if, as the Europeans want you to believe, there were only these few hundred Negroes, as they call them, that were able to run to Florida and live in the wildernesses of Florida, why did they spend millions of dollars to try and to pursue these people and try and enslave or re-enslave them? They say that the second so-called Seminole War, and they call them Seminole Wars, were the most costly wars that the United States Corporation fought until the Vietnam War. But the amount of money they spent was analogous to what was spent during the Vietnam War. So there's so much information that we're just not being told anything about. Now, the war strategies that they use guerrilla warfare. And we've been known all over the world for fighting in what they call a guerrilla war style capacity. They're just taking advantage of the foolishness of the troglodytes, the Europeans. When the Europeans would go to try and recapture them or capture the ones, because there were some people that these settlements were going on for almost 200 years, and they were unable to win any wars against these people. So their arrogance, European arrogance, didn't stop them from let them know that maybe they should change the war stratagems that they were using. Some of them tried guerrilla warfare, but they had no idea about how to fight in guerrilla style. So they would go into Florida, and they did the same thing actually in South Carolina, but they would wear these uniforms, these British-style uniforms that were very tight-fitting. They would wear these boots, which was okay for wearing boots, but I guess the construction of the boots made them very noisy, so you could hear them coming. They would wear these hats, and I can't remember exactly what the hats were called, but these were hats that had the real high part of the hat with plumes in the top. So you could just see them coming from almost miles away just by what they were wearing. Even the colors, they'd wear those bright red uniforms or bright blue uniforms. You could see them coming from miles. And then they would traipse through brush. So you could hear them marching based on the way that they stepped with their boots in the leaves and whatnot that were on the ground. Something else, their smell. Well, they didn't bathe. So you could clearly smell them. You have a whole army, hundreds of men coming, and none of them are bothered to take a bath. They could smell them coming very easily. The way they would cook with with large fires, or they would have their campgrounds with these large fires. So again, you could see them coming just based on, or know where their camps were located, just based on the fires that were lit. So the Gullah Geechee people, they used that against them. Now, why am I saying Gullah Geechee? And I think it's important because some people are probably saying, you're talking about the Geechee people were here here on Turtle Island forever. They never were in Africa. Well, what about the Gullah people? Well, that's where I make the distinction. Some people refer to the Gullah people as being the Gola people of West Africa, around the area of Libya, Liberia, Ivory Coast, all in that area in West Africa. Some other people refer to them as being the people who were situated in Angola. So again, you get the Gullah, supposedly that comes from that particular area. And ultimately, a lot of them did come, not a lot, but there were people that were brought here from Africa, but it was not the numbers that they want you to believe that they came in. So you have them, they're coming here, and some people say that's how you got the name Gullah. And that's debatable, and we're getting more and more information, or more and more information is being revealed to think of an explanation for the word Gullah that's contrary to what we have been getting, or we've been told. Some people say the Gullah people are actually the Gola people, the Gwale people, excuse me. So you have them; they're coming, but they're not coming in the numbers that we have been led to believe. And just think about this. And you and I had this conversation a little while ago. They're trying to tell you that between 250 million to 500 million people were removed from the African continent and brought here, brought to Brazil, Central America, South America, Caribbean, areas, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and so forth and so on. And I'm not debating. There were some people that were brought there. But are you telling me that 250 million to 500 million people were removed from the continent and none of those Africans fought back? with all those people that were being removed, that would mean there's some really, really sorry people. Where they stand near the boats that were leaving and say, bye, good riddance? That doesn't make sense. So we've been fed a whole lot of malarkey, and we have to blame one person for that with that silly book, Roots, and that's, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. His name is escaping me. Alex Haley. We have to blame him. And there are other books that have been written that we have to blame. There were people for that large number, and it makes Africans look like what the devil was wrong with them. There was a book written by a man by the name of Mannix, and I'm trying to think. Mannix was his last name. I'm trying to think of his first name. It's not coming to me right now. But he wrote a book, and I believe the name of the book was called Slave Cargoes. And so the number of people that removed from the entire southwestern area, which would include Angola and, what became known as Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Mali, Guinea, and so forth. He only says that a couple million were removed from that whole entire area, and they went throughout Turtle Island. And people were really, really angry at him. They called him a racist. How could you? That's not the number that were removed from there. But, when you think about the story that was told, it makes you wonder, what they said, could that be true? And if you go to, some people talk about the currents in Africa, that it would be virtually impossible for ships to sail into that area and not have problems on the sea. Now, I've been in Nigeria. I don't know how many times that I've been to Nigeria. You can't even go in the water near some of the beaches. You can maybe put your feet on the edges, but if you go too far, you're going to get swept away. The water in that area is not calm and gentle at all. So I saw that with my own eyes. As a matter of fact, I was there with my children one year, and my middle son, and he was even telling me about this a couple of days ago, how he almost got swept away with the current, and someone had to come and run and help him. My children, they, when they're young, they'll turn your back for a minute, and they're off doing something that, you didn't even envision that they would do. And they had to run and get him out of the water before he got swept away. And he was a young individual during that particular time. I think he might have been like 7 years old or so, 6 or 7 years old during that particular time. And I just turned my head, not even a minute, a couple seconds, and he was in the water. So the water is the currents are very, very strong. And people don't go in the water because they know. And, there are some areas where the water is a little bit calmer, like Badagry, for instance. And I've been to Badagry, and there was a area where captives were held. And the people of Badagry, they were very proud of the fact that their ancestor enslaved our people, some of our people. And they had the manacles that were used to chain them up. All the manacles that you would find here, to force feed people who refuse to eat and stuff, you can go to Badagry right now and you'll find them. And then they charge you, to go into this so-called, now it's considered to be a museum. But these people are praising this man. They're still praising this man for being involved in the trade in enslaved Africans. And when I went there, I was so angry, I couldn't even finish listening to the presentation. And actually, I'll tell you something else I did. I spit on the area where they had a little, what do you call it, placard, in loving memory of Chief so-and-so, whatever his name was. I can't remember that right now. And I spit on the placard, because who the hell are you? And y'all are bragging about this. You're talking about in loving memory of this man. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. But anyhow, so some of us, we did come out of Africa, but not on the level that we've been led to believe. And then you have the ship, the Wanderer. And I think this is important. The last ship that came out of Africa, supposedly, the Wanderer. And it was a ship that was owned by the United States, but it wasn't a ship. It was a, what do you call it? A pleasure ship. What do you call it? I told you the name of that. What do they call those ships? Oh, goodness. I told you what it was. I can't remember, but it wasn't a big ship. And they're trying to tell you all these captives were on the ship. Some people say there were 600 on the ship. Some people say there were 400 on the ship. You're saying to yourself, wait a minute, that doesn't even make sense. Call it. It's going to come to me. I'm going to put that in the search engine and see if I can tell you the name of this particular ship. You want to ask me something while I try and bring up this information?
Not right now. Give me a second.
I don't want there to be static. But anyhow, so we have not been given all the information that we should be given about the number of African people who were brought here to the United States of America. And something else that's important. Oh, it was a yacht. That's what I wanted to say. It's a yacht. Yachts are pleasure ships. Now, some people, if you'll go in and you read the information, they're going to tell you that a yacht was used to try and throw the patrols, the people that were patrolling the seas, to make them believe that it was just a yacht, as opposed to a ship carrying enslaved Africans. Well,
okay.
Maybe there were some enslaved Africans on the ship. It was only a yacht. So how many people can be carried on a yacht? Even the bigger yachts. How many people can you get on there? But we've been told, people saying that 600 people were on the yacht. Some people say there were 400 people on the yacht. And you had someone come and find some of them people, but only 100 people, a little over 100 people could be found. And these people were supposedly interviewed about their being on that yacht and brought to the Americas. I read an article where they only interviewed 4 people that were on that yacht. And these are people that were taken into South Carolina. They said a couple people went into Florida. These are the people that they're interviewing about their experience being on the last slave ship. But when you read about the last slave ship, the Wanderer, they just refer to it as a slave ship. You have to dig a little deeper. Some information now is coming out where they're really telling you that it was a yacht. So how many people were really on the ship? So a lot of the information, we need to rethink the information that we've been given, and we definitely need to rethink the information that was given to us by these so-called people like Alex Haley, because he was a liar, a real big liar. And he was working for the government. He wasn't working for us. Even the whole thing with Malcolm X and the writing of the autobiography. We need to go back and look at that information that he put in there. And it wasn't published until after Malcolm's death. So do we know that all the information that Haley put in that book was in actuality information that had been given to him by Malcolm X, or is it stuff that the government told him to add to that? And look at the other person, and I can't think of his, Manning Marble, who wrote a book about Malcolm X and then accused him of being a homosexual. You know, should we believe that? Or did someone tell him to put that information in the book? And it's funny that not long after the book was published, the man died. Did they kill him? And then did they take control of that document and then put in what they wanted to put in? So is he guilty, or is he just a victim of circumstance where they used him to write the book for the most part? Then they killed him and then put in the book what they wanted to put in, so that in our eyes, Malcolm would be seen as a lesser being, you know. And we know, you know, Malcolm was killed, and usually if they can't co-opt you, they kill you. You know, same thing with Fred Hampton. Couldn't co-opt him, so they killed him. Anyone that they could co-opt and get them to go on their side, they left alone. They were allowed to live. You know, and there are plenty of them. They said, you know, everybody had a price. If they didn't have a price, they needed to be exterminated. And so, you know, Malcolm was killed, Fred Hampton was killed. We can think of other people that were killed, or they were jailed or still in jail because they refused to say what the government wanted them to say. But anyhow, I don't want to, you know, get off the point of talking about the people of the Gullah Geechee people and the wars that they fought against the United States of America. And so thriving in America, in Florida. And people are coming from all over to do business with them. They're coming from the Caribbean. They're coming from what now is being referred to as the United States of America. They're going into those settlements and they're buying these people's wares because their wares were better than what was being offered by other people living in proximity to their settlements. The Spaniards are holding on to, only barely holding on to Florida. And the French are trying to take control of Florida. The British tried to take control of Florida. And the Americans also ultimately did take control of Florida. But they tried for decades before they were actually able to take control of Florida. And so you have these people, the Gullah Geechee people, they're there and they're surviving. They're doing very well for themselves. And the so-called people living under the United States Corporation are angry. And they decided that they were going into Florida to get those people. So you have the Patriots. So the Patriots are nothing new. You know, we have the Patriots now where they're killing up our people and doing all sorts of stuff. Well, you have the Patriots during that particular time that are going there to try and to kill the people and remove them. And they were unsuccessful. But they kept trying and trying and trying. One of the people who was really angered by the success of these people was Andrew Jackson. And the boy was a fool. And he tried and tried during the first war, the so-called First Seminole War. He tried to go there and win, and so they thought of all sorts of strategies to try and bring these people into the United States, people who had never been enslaved. You know, they had lived there. Some of them, the people had never been enslaved. They had lived in Florida all their lives. They had lived in Florida, like I said, for almost 200 years, had never been enslaved. So he's trying to bring them back. So he's thinking of strategies to to get the people back. So one of the places they wanted to go to get the people was an area near what they called the Negro Fort. And they called it Negro Fort. They didn't call it Negro Fort. They called it that Negro Fort because the Europeans were angry that the fort existed. This fort was built by melanated people, but it was built with the help of the British. The British supplied the money for the supplies, and they were able to build this fort. And they were using this fort to keep an eye on the arrival of intruders, people that were trying to take control of Florida and to kill them and enslave them. So the European people near the fort, supposedly to get water, but they didn't want water. They wanted to kill the people and to destroy the fort. So they created a ruse by going into that area, acting like they were going there to get water, tried to rape and kill the women and the children who were near the water, and they were washing clothes and doing other chores near the water. They tried to harm them, but they really didn't want to. They would have harmed them, but they wanted to get the men to come out of the fort and fight for them. So the men see that their women and children are being abused. So of course they come out of the fort, and they end up killing almost 200 so-called American soldiers. Now the Andrew Jackson and the other men involved in the ruse, they used that as a way to get support from the United States government. The government is going through, they're fighting everybody. All sorts of wars are being fought. They're fighting against other autochthonous people. They're fighting against the British. You have the War of 1812. They had just finished fighting the war, supposedly for independence. So the people were not overly enthused about getting in another war with anybody. But when they found out that their men were killed by these melanated autochthonous people, now they're angry, and they use that as a way to get the so-called American citizens involved in destroying the fort. Now the melanated soldiers got wind of what's going on. Now, not only do you have the fort being manned by these autochthonous people, you have indigenous people living all around the fort, thousands of people living around the fort. When they found out that the United States was planning an attack, they moved all the people that were living in that area. They sent them further south, and they cleared out the fort so that there were only approximately 20 people, and don't quote me on the number of people, but it was a very low number of people living inside of the fort that the Europeans called that Negro Fort. So they bombed the place, and they're able to basically destroy the whole entire fort. They're able to destroy the fort. But when you read the information about the destruction of that Negro fort, they'll tell you, some people will tell you that there were upwards of 300 people living inside the fort. But new information has begun to surface that tells you that there weren't that many people in the fort. there were only approximately 25 people inside that fort when it was actually bombed, and they were able to take those people as prisoner. Some of them they sent to the so-called United States of America. About 10 of them went to people in the United States who claimed that they were their property, and some of the people were hung. A Choctaw man was hung, as well as another man who was a Geechee. He was killed, and his name was Garcon. And we need to know about Garcon, you know, his valiant fight. You know, even if you think about what happened when the American men went to the fort and some of them got killed, there was one who was trying to resist. He was hell-bent. He had grabbed a melanated woman, and he was trying to rape her. When they told him to put the woman down, leave her alone, he kept on holding on to dear life. And they were able to get the woman away from him, wrestle the woman away from him, and then they tarred and feathered the man. And I can't think of his name right now. It'll come to me. But they tarred and feathered that man. And, you know, so we're talking about men who, his name was Private Edward Daniels. You can go and look. This man actually exists, and information about him is in my book. You had those men, those Gullah Geechee men, who didn't take any stuff. They let them know right away, you're not going to do anything to our women, and if you try and hurt them or hurt us, we are going to fight back. And I think we lost that will to fight. But these men were not playing. They said they weren't taking no stuff. Something else I should say before I go on and talk about anything else dealing with the wars. In 1814, August 24th, 1814, melanated men participated in the burning of the White House and all the other governmental buildings in that particular area. A lot of the men that went into Washington, D.C. to participate in the burning of the White House came out of Cumberland Island in Georgia. Cumberland Island is still considered a place where people go for vacation. One of the things that people like about Cumberland Island is that there are a lot of wild horses on that island. So you had melanated men who left out of Florida to what was then called Fernandina Island in Florida. They crossed over into Cumberland Island, and with the British, they went into Florida. They went into Washington, D.C., and participated in the burning of the White House. You had other melanated men that were fighting along with the British, but you had a significant number of Gullah Geechee men who participated in the burning of the White House and all the other governmental buildings during that time.
What year was that?
Excuse me?
What year was the White House burned?
1814. August 24th, 1814 is when they burned the White House to the ground. And the only thing that stopped all of Washington, D.C. from being destroyed is a freak rain came and put out some of the flames. Now you had Madison, James Madison, who was president during that particular time, and he was a homosexual. And he was a short little man, and he had a thing for black men. And so at one point, they knew the British were coming. They didn't know when the British were coming, but they knew the British were coming, and they tried to prepare, although they prepared wrong for the coming of the British. And so he brought a lot of melanated soldiers into, I don't know exactly what area they went to, whether they were actually in the White House or a building adjacent to the White House. He brought them in, and he had them stripped naked, basically, down to their underwear, and he's rubbing on their bodies and telling them, asking them, would they fight when the British come, or would they see the British and would they run? And, he's closing his eyes and he's touching their bodies and just making basically a fool of himself. But instead of letting those men stay in Washington, D.C., he sent them into Maryland, supposedly to fight against the British who were coming. But anyhow, the British, along with these melanated soldiers, they burned the White House to the ground. Dolly Madison, who was James Madison's wife, she's very upset because she had planned this elaborate dinner party during that particular time, and she had all of the people that she enslaved, like a man by the name of Jennings. His last name is Jennings. And she has him running around, and she's making all these preparations along with her, one of the women that she kept close to her who helps her get dressed and bathe and whatnot. Her name is Suki. And they're, rushing around preparing, and then she finds out the British are coming, and she wants to have her party anyway. And they say, no, you can't have your party. The British are coming, and you have to get out of here. So you have all this that's going on during this particular time. After the White House is burned down, you have Francis Scott Key, who's angry. They don't tell you Francis Scott Key, not only was he a racist, he was an enslaver. He held melanated people in captivity, and they don't talk about that. Now, he and another man, and I can't think of his name right now, please forgive me, I'm not the best with names. Maybe it'll come to me before this is over. He was taken hostage by the British. While he was under their control, he wrote the lyrics to the Star-Spangled Banner. But the music that he used was not, or the melody that he used was not an original melody. That melody had been used several times by him and other Europeans. Actually, it came from a song about the British men who were fond of going to a particular bar in London, and they would sing the song, same melody as the Star-Spangled Banner is now. They would sing this song and they would have sex with women, and they would sing this particular song. And I'm trying to think of the name of the song. I'm throwing up my notes so I can try and tell you what the name of this song was that was sung by these people. So this melody was used over and over and over again. But it was connected first and foremost to these men getting drunk in a bar and talking about and ultimately having sex with whorish women. And they don't tell you about that. Let me see. I'm trying to pull it up right now because I can't remember the name of the song altogether. But the melody was used a couple of times. Now, I'll say this about Francis Scott Key. He was very angry about what had occurred in terms of burning down the fort. He was very, very, burning down the White House. He was very, very upset about that. He was also angry about what had occurred at Fort McHenry. and he's enslaved, and he's looking what's occurring, and decided that he would write the song. And it was the English song. It was called "To Anacreon in Heaven." And that was not the first time that particular melody had been used. It was also used for a tune that was called "When the Warrior Returns from the Battle Afar." And that was written by Francis Scott Key as well. So he's just using the same melody over and over again. And one of the reasons why they said he used the melody, because he figured that the so-called European people who were calling themselves Americans would already know the melody, so the only thing that they would have to do would be to learn the new lyrics. Okay, so we have this man. He's an enslaver. He's angry. He's being held captive by the British, and he writes this tune. He's angry, really angry at the melanated soldiers who fought alongside the British, and he mentions that in his song, in his lyrics. So now, one thing that happened after the melanated soldiers fought with the British in the destruction of the White House and all the other governmental buildings in that particular area, when the British sat down to negotiate with the United States after the War of 1812, the British put in their treaty a provision that a border state or border territory would be created where melanated people could live. And that border territory was between what we now call the United States and Canada. So we're talking about the area around Buffalo, in that particular area, that was going to be designated as a free territory for melanated people. The United States Corporation would not agree with that provision, and they removed it from the treaty. But the British did try and put that in there for melanated people. Now, one thing that they did do, they allowed some of the people that were living in Washington, D.C., they allowed them to board their ships and go to the Bahamas and go to Bermuda, which were considered to be territory owned by the British during that particular time. Some of the other men went into Canada in the area that's now called Nova Scotia, and they started settlements there. Other people went to Trinidad. Let me not forget about Trinidad, because they went into Trinidad as well. The ones that went into Nova Scotia, Nova Scotia was very cold, they are responsible for starting the game that we now call hockey. And European people are acting like that's their game. They started it, and that's not true. Snoop Dogg, among other people, did a documentary on the game of hockey and how it was started by those melanated men who fled to Nova Scotia. And you still have European people, the troglodytes, they're still angry. They want to claim that sport as being their own. As a matter of fact, maybe a week or two ago, one of the melanated men played that sport, was murdered, and it's saying that he was found in a pool, and supposedly he had drowned. But the circumstances of his drowning, it seemed like they like to drown out people. as a way of eliminating them. But they're saying that the circumstances of his supposedly drowning are suspect, and you have European people bringing watermelons to the game and doing all sorts of things supposedly, and we're talking about now, we're talking about 21st century, 20th and 21st century, where they were still bringing watermelons and other things like they did to Jackie Robinson and that sort of stuff to the games, and they're laughing and giggling, not knowing if it wasn't for those men in Nova Scotia, there would be no game called hockey. And now they basically co-opted the sport, and then they're going to tell you that our men could not play hockey. But I'll tell you what, my boys, 3 of them, they played hockey, and they played it very well. They didn't go pro or anything, but they certainly were playing the game. And they started when they were little boys. And from ice hockey, they went into roller hockey, and they continued to play some ice hockey, some roller hockey, all right, and they did it very well. And, years ago, a man got angry. I'm not going to remember tell you his name, but he had a sports show, and I called it a sports show, and I was telling him that stick handling is just as it requires just as much skill as it does to bounce a ball. And he didn't like that very much. And he didn't allow me to stay on the line too long. But if you watch a melanated man handle that puck with that stick, and that takes a lot of skill. And we had that skill, and we still have that skill. But anyhow, so you have these men, these Gullah Geechee men who are participating. They're not the only ones, because you had enslaved melanated all throughout Washington, D.C. When they found out the British were coming, they were glad. They're clapping their hands. They started the raid. They're doing everything to help the British to make sure that the fire spread and that the people, there, or the melanated people there, are taking revenge on all of the enslavers. Now, the enslavers are running. The British are coming, they're getting out of Dodge. So they left, and the melanated people are doing whatever is necessary to destroy Washington, D.C., and they did a pretty good job of destroying it. And like I said, if it wasn't for the rain coming, all of Washington, D.C. would have been burned to the ground. That's the only thing that saved them. So now the Americans are really angry. Andrew Jackson, he's very angry. And they turned their attention to that Negro fort in Florida. And they decided that it had to be destroyed. They used the ruse of the Watering Hole Massacre to go in there and kill the people, or they thought that they were going to be killing up a lot of people, but they didn't, because they knew after the Watering Hole Massacre, they knew the treachery of the Europeans. They had been dealing with them for quite some time. They knew their mindset. They knew what was coming next, and so they took their children, their women and their children and their elderly further south to keep them from being killed, maimed, raped by Andrew Jackson's army. And that's something that's not talked about. And they took them to places where they had no idea of. They had sent in people, William Bartram, for example, and they have schools here in Philadelphia that are named after him, one high school in particular that I know of that was named after him. They send him there as this fun-loving, asexual man who only wanted to look at the pretty flowers. They sent him into Florida to search around and see what the flora and fauna of that particular area was like, so that the army could come in, and they do that all the time. the army could come in and then go in and kill those people, and they were unsuccessful. And Bartram, among other people, said that Florida was just as unknown to them as China was. They didn't know anything about it, and because they knew nothing about it, it made it impossible for them to fight against the Gullah Geechee people. Something else that we don't like to talk about, but I'm going to say it. They also use magic to fight against the Europeans. We don't want to hear about that, but, you know, we need to think about, and, you know, it's funny because while we're afraid of magic, while we're afraid of magic, you have European people in this country who have basically taken over Vodun. You have more European people engaged in Vodun than you do even melanated people because of our fear. We've been told that Jesus don't like that, God don't like that, so we won't do it, and they're doing it all the time. So they're calling on our ancestors and asking them to fight against us, but we don't want to talk about that, and so we don't. But anyhow, so you have the people, they're moving further south. They're, you know, leaving the area, going to the Bahamas, they're going to Cuba, but not all of them, because a lot of them say they stayed there and they were going to fight. You have the women that are playing just as significant a role as the men in fighting. They're in there, they're finding iron, they're smelting that down, and they're making bullets. These are the women that is smelting down the iron pots and whatever else they could find made out of iron, and they're making bullets. They're also, when the men are getting ready to go and fight, or during the time that they're fighting, the women are saying incantations. If you go in and you read the primary sources, you're going to see that. And the men are wondering, these Europeans are wondering, what are these women doing, you know, near the battlefield? Why are they there, and what are they saying? You know, but they're using incantations to try and make the men stronger. Now, at the same time that you have melanated women going to the battlefield with their men to chant incantations, to make bullets, to treat the men who have become, who are wounded, you have European women, the troglodytes, they're following their men to battle, but they are providing sex for the men. They're not helping them in the battle. They're just waiting until the battle is over, or if some men are leaving the battle and think that they want to, you know, have sex, that's what they're providing. They're providing sex services, and they refer to them as being camp women. So, you know, look at the difference between the way the European women are approaching the battles and the way that the melanated women are helping their men during battles. You know, not all of them, because, you know, the elderly and the children had to be taken care of. But you have those women, like a Harriet Tubman kind of warrior spirit. They're in there fighting alongside the men, or doing what they can to lend to the war.
Tolagbe?
Yes.
Let me give the announcement. We have 28 minutes before we go to overtime. And like I said, I saw one person raise their hand. Y'all guys can call in for your question and comments. Now we'll open the lines. The number to call in is 515-605-9783. I repeat, 515-605-9783. Press 1. This is part 4 of the Unconquered book by and readings by Dr. Tolagbe Ogunleye. I guess we have one caller. Do you want to conclude what you're saying before I take this call?
Yeah, I think I've said enough. I've talked about the women's involvement in fighting against the Europeans. I think we can stop right there.
All right. So now she has gone for her readings for tonight, so we're going to now open the lines for question and comments. So open the first line. All once, may I ask who this is?
All right, Gary, what's going on?
Okay. How you doing, Jay?
All right. Yeah, what's going on? Listen, I just want to say one thing. Yeah, peace and respect to the sister and to what you're doing. Good show.
How are you, brother? You say that before you start.
All right, sis. Yeah, all good. Yeah, I think all fronts, political, from the streets, if you want to talk, say, people that are talking to the communities, community leaders, even working with some religious fractions to whatever, whatever you can kind of agree to and kind of work with, not only about agreeing, about how it progresses communities and help your people. So I would say, implement everything and anything that works towards the betterment of the people to empower them on all fronts, and everybody got a position to play. Everybody's not going to be the politician, the police officer, somebody in government, but we have voting powers, and we have to, I guess, keep the pressure on those people that are going to, work in those fronts, and then also, I guess, keep the pressure and use your power wherever you can. I'll stay there. You could be with me, bro. I'll be back.
Good response.
You're asking me to respond?
Yeah, you could,
I think that, there's a role to be played by everybody. Everybody can't do the same thing. So exactly what the brother is saying, what you can do. And, let's change our situation because it's pretty dire right about now.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, right now it's like our people just, they're really looking for outside forces to save them. They're not really doing like what is really necessary to really turn this around in mass numbers. And I'm not saying our people don't want to see us in a better situation, but when we look at the climate and the mentality of our people collectively, they're not ready for it, and they don't want it. I feel with a sense of comfort level, it builds stagnation, it builds a sense of laziness, and it builds no accountability. If you sit there and you leave it to others to really fight the fight that we a collective should be doing, and not only doing but supporting, then it only goes so far. I think some of the old Afrocentric scholars, even I think Kwame Nkrumah, say if you organize a little, you get little done. You organize in the middle, you get some done. But if you organize a lot, you get a lot done. So people gotta pick and choose. How much time you want to put into really change this around. With these readings,
if you think of,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if you think about what Tecumseh said, if you take little branches and you stack them one on top of another, you get your strength. So we're not asking everybody to do everything, but whatever you can do it.
I agree.
And it'll make a world of difference.
Okay. We have some more callers, and like I said, guys, we're not going overtime yet. Next 21 minutes, but let me take next caller. Once, may I ask who I'm speaking to?
Honorable Brother Gary and honorable guest, honorable doctor. Please say your name for me one more time.
Okay.
Tolagbe Ogunleye.
Yes, you said it so perfectly.
Thank you.
I'm Angel Lady Love, listener, inspirer,
right,
friend,
second.
emissary.
Hey,
Hello?
how are you?
Hello, Angel Love. 1 second.
Yes.
I got a new caller. 403. May I ask who I'm speaking to?
Yes, Brother G, Gary. How you doing, man? I'll be patient.
You can go ahead and ask your question, Angela Love.
Oh, I was going to respond to so many things she said. I'm indigenous to this country, as most of us are and don't realize it. But just
That's
as
right.
they're doing in Africa now, these degenerates, they took advantage of our being pacifists. And the other key is, I heard you talking about how some would put something in the food. My people, especially my mother and my grandmother, no way would we use such a degenerated variable. No way would we put anything in someone's food. Food is sacred. Now, the other key is, I'm saying that because it may have happened near and around when this Jesse Jackson bragged about when he was a teenager or something he was doing, and he used to do what he did to the food, to the people. And the bottom line is, my mother was working for a fraternity house, a Caucasian one. I won't say the name of the school right now, university. And I feel confident that those boys made that oven blow up in my mother's face.
Ooh.
Now, the key here, it's a blessing that she did not have keloids and all of that. And her face, I was just constantly in prayer. She did not sue them. And Daddy was even alive then. They did not sue. And yet, through the grace of the Most High, my mother's face was not, while it was healing, it would look monstrous, okay? And Daddy kept helping and applying whatever it was that they were doing. And she was able to come back to, this is how I'm into the Holy Spirit. But at any rate, she was able to marry her third husband 24 years after that. I think it was approximately 24 years after that. But back to these other degenerates, I've heard a younger woman supposed to be melanin rich, not long ago, maybe it was less than 10 years ago, and was on through one of these programs like this, and she was saying what she would do to people's food. I'm not from that kind of people. You see me?
Was it on this show?
However,
it wasn't on this show. It was the same kind of format. And so that saddens me, and it makes me so I don't even want to go to their restaurants. That they don't have the same kind of love for people as my people, especially my mother. Just as I do, I worked in many positions, you see, and we respect for whom we work, but mostly ourselves, and we would never dare to stoop so low. See, these are some of the kind of things that have pulled us away from our supremacy. But more emphatically, Caucasoids can't be supreme, primus, or whatever you all call it. And it was another thing that you touched on. What was it? It was something you mentioned. Oh, the stench. Yes. I've been to everything you said tonight. I've said it, but maybe in a different vein. Yes, these degenerates had us. Okay, let me ask you this, sister, doctor. Did you get my message at all? Because I don't have email and all of that. And I asked someone to send you my name, and you'd not heard of me or hadn't received any.
I've heard you before, but I wasn't given a message or anything.
You've not received one. Well, maybe they didn't do it. See, I don't have anyone that can send you that. But at any rate, I look forward to this. It seemed like it was so long ago that we last spoke to you. So I thank you so much for being here. I have more to say, but more emphatically because you're in the territory where I am, and I need to tell you what's going on here.
Right.
And some of the other things that with what's happening everywhere, actually.
Right.
With this foam that they're using to put, all of New Jersey is now saying that they're having problems. Well, we're right, hop, skip, and a jump from Jersey. All waterways are connected. So let me just bow out and thank you, Honorable Brother Gary, for this opportunity to speak to such a highly honored woman. Thank you for your diligence.
Oh, thank you. And hopefully I'll get your message this time.
Well, if I can find someone who will send it. I was trying to get it done through Temple University because you said something, you had coordinates there. And
right, I haven't been at Temple in a while, but yeah, I went to Temple University. That's where I got my doctorate.
Yes, that's why I called. But he was a student, so maybe he got scared, you know. And and I did get to speak to Dr., but I didn't mention about you. He just went to Africa. Well, let me not hold you up. Yes, just before he went to Africa. I don't know if he's back now or not. Let me let you go because he'll have a fit on me. Thank you so much. I'm going to try to get through.
Okay.
But I don't have internet.
Okay. Well, I hope you will. Try again.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before you speak, Brother G, let me see what
it was something. Oh, it's doggone it. The voodoo. I had to tell you something about.
Wait, one second. Because the lines are getting full. 773. Who's this? 773.
This Shard. What's up, man?
Shard. Okay. All right, Brother G, you can ask your question.
Hey, what's up, man? I was just listening in, man. I was wondering, like, with
hello.
All of these,
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Wait 1 second. There's a line. Brother G, you can talk.
Yeah, man.
Up your line.
Yeah, Gary, thank you for continuing to have the high energy that you have to bring in these guests. That gives us a better balance of being able to see more than what we've learned in Western education. I'm sure my sister probably had a difficult time trying to gather information because they truly don't like it when we try to find our way, trying to figure out a better way to how we have some kind of ties to this land. So I appreciate her studies and all her accolades, all that she brought forth. That's number one.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And then the next thing to our sister, the historian for us, that really does my heart proud to hear her speak the way she does. Would you say of a lot of our dealings with the Anglo-Saxon at this time, that would you say that we're still somewhat in a let me finish, Papa. Let me finish. Would you say that we're still in a sort of a warlike mentality, meaning the Liber codes, field articles that they continue to use, actually being a military type of state?
Yeah, we're at war, but we just don't know we're at war. A lot of us don't, and that's because I guess we're being entertained. So you can turn on, the TV and see a lot of foolishness, actually. And based on that, we're being lulled to sleep, and we're made to believe that everything is all right. And, if you look at some of the older historians, they'll tell you that, the TV and having us on TV would be a way of trying to lull us to sleep and make us think that everything is all right. And I would call it, and people would laugh at me and say, yeah, right. That's that Abraham Lincoln mentality that you can, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And if you just work hard enough, you can be an Oprah, or you can be a Tyler Perry, or a Snoop Dogg, or whoever it is. You can get what they've got. And they know good and well there are only a couple of people that are going to ever make that kind of money and live that type of lifestyle. But as long as we're led to believe that we have a chance of living that way as well, we're not going to do anything to rock the boat.
That's good.
We are.
Yes,
we're at war.
Yes, ma'am. And the other thing to mention, I like how you identified the chanting and the placement of who our sisters were when we were trying to keep, should I say, a lot of our culture, our inheritance alive. Would you say, and I really don't want to use the word matriarch type setting, but would you say that because we had a unity amongst ourselves, that we had a better understanding of each other versus that we're so far apart now, that we're more colonized, more westernized, and that's why we can't see our way clear to this thing? Or what? I understand the educational part of it, but is there any way that we could probably come together to unite again, brother and sister? Because I know we keep trying to use the format of how the Anglo-Saxon do things, speaking of an army and having the brute force. But you said something that was so important with our sisterhood. Would you strongly suggest the only way of us really getting back to where we need to get to is that there has to be brother and sister together first before we think about brother and brother? And if you don't mind, and that's the last of my question coming to you. If you don't mind, if you could just give a little more dialogue on that. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. You're absolutely right. And, something that you said about the incantations, we need to say those incantations to our children daily. You're brave, you're kind, you're sweet, you're this. And I think it really, really makes a difference, And, if you go back to the ancient cultures, that was something they did all the time to give strength to their children. It makes a difference. I think, if you think about the way that our children have been dehumanized, you're nothing. You'll never be anything. Your father wasn't shit, and you ain't going to be shit either. That sort of stuff has a horrible effect on children. But if we forget about that, don't say those things. Say things that are pleasing, that are uplifting. We can change who we are. So absolutely, and we can't do it alone. A lot of the women there think that they can do it alone. No, you can't. You need a man. And it's funny because when I was teaching in Philadelphia, some of the women who had decided that they were lesbians, they would get angry at me and stop coming to my class. They cut my classes if I say, no, you need a man. How can you make it without a man? They would get very, very upset with me to say that you need a man.
Well, Doc,
I may want a man, but I also need a man.
Understand, Doctor. I appreciate you. Thank you for everything you gave today. I'm going to go ahead and revisit this and listen over and over. Thank you very much. Great day.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother G. Respect. Shard, you have any comments or questions for tonight's show, my guest?
I have a comment just basically from what I just was listening to. She was saying that we don't know we at war, and I agree with that, but I agree for different reasons. I believe, and I've come to realize that the reason we don't know we at war is because of everything else that's inundated in front of us. And I'm not just talking about the simple things. I'm talking about the things that people think they're pushing as far as revolutionary, but in reality, it's just verbiage and wordplay. You're pushing reading books. You're from Africa. You're a descendant of a slave. You're a coon if you don't protest the NFL. Which presidential candidate is the best for you? Those are the things that are pushed to the forefront of what we are told to believe now. So within that complex right there, we're never thinking about being at war. That the war that you're speaking of doesn't even come into play when people see a black man get out of the car and go and defend his family and then subsequently ends up dead. That we don't view that as, oh shit, it's time to get it on. Those days have long since passed because of everything else nonviolent being pushed to the front. So as long as we continue down this road of reading is revolutionary, we'll never realize we're at war.
Well, you know what they said, ancient Camite, adage is ignorance is evil. Now, how you eliminate your ignorance, it all depends on who you are. For some people, it's reading. It's funny because when I was teaching again, I always go back to when I was teaching, I would tell my students that college is not for everybody. It never has been. It never will be.
Yeah.
You know? And so there are different roles for people to play. For me, getting information out of a book, I think I'm helping people because a lot of the information, they said you want to hide something from black people, put it in a book. You know, so there's stuff in those books that we really need to uncover. And so that's the role that I play. But that's not the role that everybody should play.
Supremacy?
Huh?
I said, how relevant is what you read in a system that trumps that? The system around you trumps anything you can read.
It depends on what you're reading. Like, you know, something I said today, and I wholeheartedly believe that. If you're reading these books that, you know, you get at Barnes & Noble, you're not going to be very educated, you know, or whatever the other bookstores are at. But if you go in there and you look at those primary resources where that the books that the people that are writing the books got the information from, you're going to uncover a lot more information, you know, than you would just by reading what people want you to come across. So you have to be careful about what books you're reading. Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess when you say we're at war, I don't know if you're just referring to an information war or a physical war or both.
Oh, both. Absolutely, even more than that. Absolutely. You know, what the police are doing to our people, that's part of the war. But we don't know that. You know, they have think tanks. When was the last time any of you knew about a think tank or anybody started a think tank for us? You know, when we have think tanks, we go and we tell somebody.
I don't believe that it has to have the title of think tank. This is a think tank. I think we overdo what they do. We look at it and put it on such an unnecessary high scale. This is a think tank. This is that we're in a think tank right now.
Well, this is a type of think tank. But what about the think tanks that are going on with them that we don't know anything about? You know, everything that's on your mind should not be shared in a public venue.
Thank you, sir.
You know, because then you're telling everybody what your plan is. We need people who can keep their mouth shut and make plans, and we don't hear about it basically until it's over. But it's benefited us.
And when people do that, they're not supported. Our people don't support that type of mentality. That what you're speaking of is what Gavin Long did. That's what Micah Johnson did. They weren't supported.
Well, Tolagbe, before you continue, hold on. You there, sis? Let me open this line.
I'm here.
626, who's this?
Yes, this is Brother Yeshua.
Stay right there. Don't speak yet. Let me say this. See, the problem with our people today in the 21st century, even back then in this new century that we're up in the hold, we sit and we watch what other people are doing to the point where they say, you know, people are not supporting. Not everybody's going to be down with what people are doing today, especially when it comes to the black race. The only thing they will accept and go along, get along, is when some other race oppose it and broadcast and says good thing. That's the only time when our people are going to go along with it. But regardless, when it comes to other black people, either they broadcast it or they do it without even letting anybody know, it's not going to be support because this is not the standard. The standard is whiteness. And the one that is with the white skin and the one that holds power rules. And people uphold the standard. That's why a lot of people sit there, won't make an itch or say anything good when a black person does something like what the Michael Johnson do, or anything more extreme that we see today, that's seen or never been seen at. That's my point. We got 1 minute left before we go to overtime. Call in now, 515-605-9783. I repeat, 515-605-9783. 1 minute before we go overtime. You can respond to that, Tolagbe.
Excuse me, say that again.
You can respond. I already said my piece.
Yeah, you know what? If you truly have a think tank, how are you going to get support if nobody even knows the think tank exists? You keep it to yourself. You don't tell everything that you do. Some things are, just go ahead and do it. Don't tell anybody you're going to do it. Go ahead and do it. Period. You can't say everything. European people don't tell us everything that they're doing, but they're doing it.
They're doing it, yeah.
Yeah, look at the gentrification of our communities. Did they tell you I'm going to gentrify the community?
They're doing it. They're walking up, slicing girls in the throat right in the middle of the fucking train station.
Right.
That's what
you don't
they're doing.
think that was discussed? You don't think that man discussed that with somebody? You don't think there's some sort of
whether he did or not, he did it.
Yeah, he did it. But nobody knew he was coming.
Right, but I guess the point is he was willing to go out for his people. They called him a white supremacist. So if he did it for white supremacist reasons, that means that was a sacrifice for his people and his race. We don't have those people that are willing to make that sacrifice because our people don't support those type of sacrifices.
Well, I wouldn't say that altogether. I think there's some people out there. I remember there was one man who did something in prison, and I can't remember exactly what he did, but it was something that was beneficial to us as a community, and people raised money and got that man out of jail. I bet you that man that slashed those women's throats, I bet you already he has money for his legal counsel. I bet you.
He does.
I bet you
he got PayPal right now. A cash app right now. And somebody, I'm gonna mute that line. Come here, background noise, please. Mute your line if you're on an area that has noise, please. Thank you. All right, continue.
I bet you right now they've already started putting together the strategy to get that man off, and all the rest of them. But they're not telling us.
Nope.
And why should they?
They're just doing it. And see, the funny thing, Doctor, and I'm going to say this again, and, it has to become like second nature. You don't go by what a person says, you go by what they do. Stop going by this word thing as putting black people to sleep for century after century. Hell, probably a generation or more. And because people are going by what people say instead of watching what they really actually doing, you're going to get fucked every time.
Right.
We do it in our relationships. We do it in front of people we don't know. And then when we see the what they call the fatality, we say, what the fuck happened? Because you go by what they do. You don't go by what the fuck they say.
Right.
Never. Right.
Never.
So that means why are you pushing reading books? You're doing what you're reading a book. You're doing what somebody wrote. You're doing what somebody said. That's not an action.
No, you know what you're doing when you read, or you should be doing? You should be picking sense out of nonsense.
Thank you.
That's what you should be doing. And I think that's what's wrong with us on some level. A lot of us don't think we need to learn how to read and write and do arithmetic. And it's killing us.
The basics. This should be second nature.
We were the ones that had the first libraries.
If you're attempting to live well within the white supremacist culture that we live in, then yes, you're going to need to do those things. But if we're at war, as you stated earlier, those things are irrelevant.
Well, it depends on what you're reading. Just like you have some of these European kids, they go online or they go to the library and get a book on how to build a bomb. You don't think that they're irrelevant?
Wow. Yeah.
Huh? And they read a book.
Well,
and based on that book, they would have gathered all the materials needed to make a bomb. What's wrong with that?
And let me say something.
But again,
let me say
go ahead.
And also, this is where our people got to be very careful. There's certain things you got to learn if you're in a state of war. So let's say I'm in a war and I was good. You go even more blinder and go even further blind. You got to sit there and self-educate yourself, all the tools necessary so you can come out of this fucking war. And talking about say reading and then no actions and all stuff. Those are people that sit there if they attempt to read, which majority of people don't read anyway. They sit there, play along. They're not even informed on the simple. Hell, they feel that everything's good, that we made it. They feel, some women you hear talking about say they're very educated, and you hear that, Tolagbe. And I say, educated in what? You sit there and work for that man, and you're not even educated to self-sufficient to better not only yourself but your people. So we have to sit there and analyze everything, evaluate everything what we're doing. You continue. And before you continue, Doctor, let me open this new line.
Okay.
All ones. Who's this?
I'm your host. I'm back. Man.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else, Sharp? Because I want somebody else to talk. You have anything else to say?
Nah, keep it going.
No, I was talking to Shard.
Hey man, I didn't need you to answer for me, dog. I can answer for myself. But yeah, go ahead, man. You can move on because you know what I'm saying. Thanks for the conversation, though, Doctor.
But check it out. If I'm reading Cosmopolitan, is that helping my people? No, it's not. It's teaching me how to try and behave like European women behave, to satisfy their man. So that kind of reading, that's not helping us. And there's a lot of other foolishness out there. If we're reading that is not going to help us. But there's some other stuff out there. Huh?
They're reading books like Zane and all these other non-fictional fuckery books. I know some women, I asked a woman when I started read that, they said, where you get out of that? They said, I'm getting just the fear. Hold on, but you live in that right now. You get enough sex in your life? Well, something yet. So obviously
you read that
book.
You read that book, Gary? Did you read that book, Gary Zane? Did you read the book, Zane?
Hell no, brother. Hell no. I don't know what you, man. Don't be funny, man. Hold on. Before we continue, let me open the line. All ones, who's this? All ones? All right.
I'm sorry. I think that's me, Gigi. That's me, Gigi.
All right, stay right there, Gigi. All right. So now, Yasha, what's up?
Not much. No, I just wanted to say this, that, revolutionaries read. If Malcolm wouldn't have read the dictionary, Malcolm would not have been. Hello? If Malcolm wouldn't have read the dictionary, he wouldn't have been who he was. I mean, partly who he was as far as being able to articulate what he was talking about. That helped Malcolm be one of the most articulate leaders that came out of Black America at that particular time. The dude was phenomenal. If you ever just stop listening to his articulation and how he talks,
that's completely irrelevant.
It would blow your mind. So my point is that revolutionaries do read. The Panthers read all the time. Whether you disagree with what they read, what they were reading, but they read all the time. They read stuff about communism. They read stuff about war. They read all those type of things. So reading is important. Period. I mean, what your personal your feelings are, but it's important to read. So and as far as we're at war, or whether or not we're at war, whether or not Black people don't see that we're at war, etc. I think from a subconscious level, I think we know something is wrong, but we don't want to accept the reality that these caucus are actually carrying out what they want to carry out. I think that's what the nightmare for a lot of Black people say. Oh shit, they're actually thinking that they're going to do what they're going to do. They're actually trying to carry this thing out. Okay, and I think this is part of the psychological the dynamic that Black people have been going through since we got here. And there's a time in history we wrote that psychological barrier where we just said, okay, if this is what you want to do, we're going to bring it to you. And we went on the story about 1811. 1811, that rebellion was so heavy, they thought that the state of Louisiana was going to be a Black republic. That's what they thought. That's how bad them brothers and sisters were. But the point is, it didn't go down that way. They were finally, after some fighting, I think they fought for like 30-something years. Check that out. 30-something years. And finally, they got wore out. And eventually, the troops came in and put out the rebellion. After 30-something years almost. So my point is that in fact, we as people in America, We have to understand what history is. I don't read dumb shit. I read I read generally what I know about my history. All the rest of that stuff, like you said, Sister Collins and all that nonsense, I don't need to read that. It's not beneficial to me. It doesn't teach me anything. You know,
right.
I mean, you can read it, but you got to read it with a cursor. You have to be able to decipher what they're saying. So that's what I have to say, man. I'm not going to put the fool up long enough.
Can I respond to that?
So
yeah, go ahead.
Can I respond to that? Can I respond to that, please?
Let Joshua finish. You finish after that.
So hold on 1 second. So this is what I have to say about Florida. That I'm concerned about reading. I don't know what else, but I wouldn't tell my child not to read if I had children. So that would be kind of crazy to tell them not to read. So that's all I have to say, man. I'm done, Gary. Go ahead.
All right.
Can I say this 1 minute? My mother grew up in the South. She was from Georgia, okay? And the Europeans would come through the neighborhood and they would put signs up. You know what the sign would say? Nigger read, if you can't read, run. That's deep, right?
Oh, yeah.
Repeat that.
No, not for real. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with the Malcolm X analogy that you used. Through all that reading, all that scholar, all that education, all that intellect, you're talking about a nigga who ended up being around a bunch of fucking snakes that he realized was stabbing him in the fucking back, and he left them alone only to die at the hands of those same fucking snakes. So with all of that education and all of that reading and all of that intellect, it still didn't help him in terms of war. So that was a bad analogy.
Wow. No, I don't think so.
No.
And we're looking at the snakes who really thought that they were doing something, but it was really the Europeans. And they've done that over and over again. If you think about even during the Civil War, the Union Army gave the melanated soldiers guns that didn't fire. Or they gave them guns and didn't give them bullets. Okay?
Yeah.
And a lot of them had to go out.
So can I just be clear and ask a question? Are you guys saying that
no better than the Confederates?
Who is that? Wait, what is that? What is this?
No fiction.
Let me find that. Okay.
Are you guys saying that people shouldn't read fiction or anything else, only history and stuff like that?
No.
Who's saying that they should just read history? I'm not saying that you should just read history. I'm saying you should read anything that's going to help us as a people.
So how is your reading history helping us? How's it helping me?
Oh, Lord.
How is reading history helping us?
Okay. I found it. Okay.
So how is your reading history helping me?
Oh, jeez. Okay.
I'm giving you information that you may not have heard anything about. Or maybe it's not helping you at all. But you know what they say? That there will never be a time in the history of the planet where everybody is on the same page at the same time. And I've come to terms with that. I've worked in schools where as soon as I gave children information, they went and ran and told the principal on me.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
No, but I'm saying you saying it's like your reading history is going to save
something, Gary?
And I became very comfortable. When I started working at schools, I never got comfortable being there where other people were putting all sorts of stuff on their walls and they were putting pictures of their children all over the place and any other of their significant others. I didn't do that because I was there to teach as much as I could teach and knowing that I was not going to be there very long. And I usually wasn't there very long because there were always some students or some administrators who didn't want to hear what I was trying to teach to children. But I bet you a lot of those children, if they could find me now and think about some of the information that I gave them, they would be thanking me.
Okay.
Well, I'm asking you, so you're incapable of doing more than one thing at a time.
But I was giving them information that they hadn't heard anywhere else.
Do something, damn it.
Young Angel Lady Love. Much respect.
Let me mute this, man, because I don't want nobody here to tell me how to run my show. Please. Listen. I'm going to open back. Who's this that's on Char's line? Hello, who's this?
I think that's me. I think that's Gigi.
No, but the woman that's talking is on this line.
Oh, I don't know.
Who are you? Hello, miss?
Oh, Red. I'm Red.
Who's this? What's your name, miss?
We spoke yesterday, I think.
All right.
I think.
Can you guys hear me? Am I
yeah, you can hear you. Who's this? Who's this on Char's line?
I just told you my name was Red.
Oh, Red? Okay, Red? All right, Red. All right, good to you, Red. Oh, before you get to you, Red,
Red,
all ones. Hold on. All ones. Who's this?
Big OC. What's happening?
Okay. All right, go ahead. Red. Big OC.
Listen, you guys, I just want to give respect to Young Angel Lady Love. All right. Shout out to Young Angel Lady Love.
Do I need to call back?
No, you're good. You're good. No, you're good. You're good. You can't hang up. You're not.
My name is not Red.
We can hear all that attitude in the background.
Well, I mean, I don't have an attitude, but I'm just trying to make, you guys keep, I don't know, it's like, I don't know if there's a lapse or if people aren't hearing or what. Like, every time somebody starts talking, other people are talking over them.
Some people get the
message. There's an order. There's an order.
Order in the court.
Yeah, because you're on this man's line.
There ain't no order on this call. There ain't no order.
No, he told me to hold on, Gigi, and wait
till you talking about order,
so he could clear the line. That's what he said.
Before I let you continue, Red, let me see what other people have to say because I did open the lines. You have anything to say, Gigi? I open your line.
Yes. Thank you very much. I just wanted to say thank you, Dr. Tolagbe. When you come over here, it's always encouraging, and I always learn something that I didn't know before. And you seem like really cool people. And thank you, Gary, and thank you, Tyrone. I'm done.
All right. Big OC, what you got?
Nah, I'll come in a second, man. I'm finishing these boxes, man.
All right. Now, let me ask you a question, Red. Oh, okay, you say you're well-read. Okay. So what's the issue?
And she's been saying her name is Ren the whole time, dude. R as in Robert, E as in Eric, N as in Nancy, nigga.
Nancy and Nancy. That's the way it sounded from here, Red.
Gary, get the names right, Gary. Come on, man.
Come on, answer our question, man. You're silent.
Is she talking?
Okay.
I don't know.
She hung up?
No, she's still there.
No, I'm lit. Okay, if you're saying you're going to ask me a question, I can't talk while you ask the question.
Are you going to ask your question or not? Because everybody's silent right now.
You said you were going to ask me a question. What are you saying?
I already said my thing already.
Gary, are you trying to ask her if she has something she'd like to say?
Yeah, just talk your thing, man, because I'm not going to repeat myself. I just asked a question, but people are not listening because people up here talking back and forth.
Well, Gary, you said I'm going to ask you a
question.
What
are you talking about? Right.
All right. Who else got something to bring to the table? Because people just stagnate right now. What's going on?
Well, I'd just like to say this. Look, while we at it, the sister, what Gigi said, respect to the sister, she actually sounds like a young Angel Lady Love as far as voice is concerned. But I respect what she's saying, and she definitely brings some good vibes to the table and just, enlighten people. So I got really nothing negative. Respect to the sister, that's all. I'll sit back.
Thank you for, Great discussion, though, guys. This has been a great discussion so far.
Yeah, this is very interesting now tonight. It's been getting very interesting while I'm here on the line. Very interesting. People complain, say,
like I say, I know the Malcolm X reference. the Malcolm X reference didn't sound right. You know, you start talking about reading and reading being revolutionary. I mean, you have to understand that's not the type of war we in. Like, for me, we have to get on the same accord in what we're facing. If we're simply facing a threat that we can somehow vote ourselves out of, if we can somehow work ourselves out of, then yeah, we should read. We should move down an educational path. But if you're telling me the war we're fighting is young black men being shot in the back, is men having to defend their families from store owners, is men having to defend their women from being cut in a fucking train station, then no, dog. Reading is fucking irrelevant, and you need to get ready to put your fucking hands up.
Yo, hey, Gary, can I respond to that, what he said, please?
What?
Hey, Gary, can I respond to that?
Somebody got tuberculosis on
here?
here?
You can respond, Yasha. You can respond.
No, look, I guess he wasn't listening to what I said, period. And what I said reading is revolutionary. And I explained a aspect of Malcolm's life that was very important to Malcolm. And it was very important for people to understand how he subjugated himself to the idea of reading, period. So I'm saying that, yes, it is.
Personal
hold on, let me finish.
It didn't help us.
Let me finish. So, let me finish now. So I'm saying, so it did help us because it allowed Malcolm to identify and communicate with black people in such a manner. So yes, it did help us. You know, if Malcolm got up there and was speaking gibberish and then was not able to articulate his words, most people probably would have turned to him off and said, what is this brother talking about? But he was able to articulate and bring forth diction that was important from a black revolutionary, black
white supremacy standpoint.
Concept. So hold on one second.
He was somebody that we could put in front of the white man.
Gary, what is wrong with you, Gary? So my point is just that.
Gary, help him. Gary, help him. He needs you.
He needs somebody.
You keep interrupting me.
He's drowning with that nonsense.
No, so what, bro? I don't care if you disagree with me. That's fine. I really don't care.
Right.
So
right.
So my point is that.
Well, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you.
So my point is, hold on. So my point is this: that reading is important to black people. There was a time when they didn't allow us to read. So what are you saying? Right. It's important to us. I'm not saying.
I'm saying you should have been trying to kill a motherfucker instead of trying to read. That's what I'm saying. What do you mean?
This is my point.
We're not
you was on the plantation trying to read. I was on the plantation trying to kill the slave master. That's what I'm saying.
Ask him a question, he's going to answer it. If you're asking him a question, he's going to answer it.
Man, this nigga on the phone ain't killed nobody yet.
Right, exactly. So this is my point.
I'm also not a slave. I'm also not a slave.
Let me say Can I finish?
I'm finish eating your grits, nigga. Finish the war with your grits, man. You ain't fighting nobody.
Can I finish?
Gary, where's Gary? What's Gary doing?
Gary, get that fucking crybaby.
It sounds like Vic Damone Part 2. He sound like Vic Damone. Don't he sound like Vic Damone Part 2?
Get the fuck out of here, man. That shit don't
make
sound
like
Vic
Damone Jr.
Wait a minute.
I'm sure.
He sound like that might be Vic Damone Jr. and shit.
Gary.
I cannot believe this.
Gary, this is my point.
This is amazing.
Relax, Josh. Let me talk.
And nobody said reading wasn't important to black people, but you act like you. I don't even understand this. I don't get it.
All right.
Shard.
Wow, really?
You there? Shard.
Can I say something?
Wait, I want to get Shard.
Hey,
you may speak. What you do
Gary?
for them, Shard? If I may ask.
What'd you say?
In the process of
what you do for Hold on, relax. I asked Shard a question. I'm Shard, what you do for a living?
You said, what do I do for a living?
Yes, sir.
Who is burping on here like that?
Right, what does that have to do with anything?
Why?
I'm just asking.
Right, and I'm asking you why. Hold on, Ray. I'm asking you why.
It's a simple question.
How is that relevant?
I'm just asking you a question because it seems like it seems like you have some on the table that people should be doing, and it sounds good, but the action should be more than just the simple talk. And if you feel this strong,
right, but translate that over to that doctor, because what she's doing is writing books telling people what they should do. All I'm telling you is, if we're at war, you're not going to read your way out of a war.
I'm not telling anybody what they should do. I'm just giving you information. That's all. That hopefully
I'm not
help
either.
you.
I'm not telling anybody what they should
fight?
do, but I was
You
specifically speaking to your information.
How about learning how to read a map? What if the internet is cut off, or you don't have GPS?
I know how to read a map.
You go somewhere to fight a battle, but you can't read a map. How you getting there?
Who are you talking about? You talking about me or just in general?
I'm talking about the necessity to know how to read and write. And, we're signing, one of the reasons why we're losing our properties, why we're being gentrified, is because we don't read
the contracts.
Okay, and they're taking stuff away from us. So if you don't think that you need to know how to read and write, that's on you.
Let me respond to
I'm
that.
not trying to ask anybody
Okay, so I live in Chicago.
But you know what I'm going to do right now?
The information you give as a doctor is bogus right now, because
I
live in Chicago, where they are gentrifying right now, putting Barack Obama's library here. They are gentrifying right now. The black people of Southside Chicago are asking them not to put it there. They're going to put it there anyway. So how can you read gentrification away?
We're talking about Detroit or Flint.
Right.
What if they had read that the water was being contaminated? Huh?
Are you for real?
They would have been able to contaminate their water if somebody had been on the case. But you know what, though? It's almost 12 o'clock. I have some reading
and the
wolves
are about to come out.
That's embarrassing.
So
yeah, you really do, because they've been on the case since 2014. So yeah, you need to go do some reading on that.
Thank you, doctor.
You let these people disrespect you guys like that, Gary.
Good thing.
Okay.
Save that shit for the conference call, man.
I can't help but share the fact.
Thank you so much.
People give y'all these titles and y'all listen to them.
All right.
How you gonna empower yourself if you ain't got no women and you fucking putting on the woman, bro? Come on, you just gotta listen to her, man. Come on, you a gangster, but you ain't got no woman, you ain't got no pussy either. You ain't got no fucking pussy, you ain't got no pussy either. You probably ain't got no pussy. You treating the women like shit. How you gonna?
Is there any way that you can debunk anything I said?
How you gonna get any pussy when you putting a woman down, motherfucker? You could be the hardest gangster, but you ain't got no pussy. You ain't shit.
You ain't no
Come on, you warring with what? You ain't got no pussy. You ain't shit.
You ain't no gangster.
How gangster you are? You a bitch nigga if you ain't got no pussy, nigga.
Why are you giving him credit to a gangster? He's not a gangster.
Pussy, nigga. You talking to the women like that, you ain't gonna get no woman around you, not even to have a conversation with you. You a bitch nigga. I don't give a fuck if you from the south side of Chicago, nigga. Give a fuck about all that shit. You think you a gangster, nigga? That's great. You ain't probably getting no pussy. You like that nigga in fucking Spike Lee movie. You the motherfucking Spike Lee movie, motherfucker. You the reason why Spike Lee made that movie about y'all motherfuckers.
Let the man
Bitch ass motherfucker.
Hold on. Wait. Let me get this under control. What you about to say, GG?
Well, no, don't bother. Don't say shit. I got this. All right.
Thank you.
All right. I don't know who this is on the line, or I don't know who the hell it is talking. And you sound like you're new over here. My name is Tyrone. Welcome to the show. This is my platform. Tonight we had a guest. Normally on guest night, we try to have some type of decorum. Whether you agree with the subject or not, it's a form of entertainment that people sit back and listen to. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to call in. You don't have to do shit. But one thing that you're not going to do is come over here and disrupt the show with all this bullshit. Now, to be honest with you, we have nights where the atmosphere is just like this. And you can call in on those nights anytime you want to and cuss and fuss and do whatever the hell you want to. But I think it's bullshit that you call into this show and then actually try to disrupt it and do whatever the hell y'all was just doing. Now, you can not call this motherfucker because I don't give a shit about who the fuck you are, what you say. I don't give a shit. And I will hang up on your ass every time you call if you want to persist on not following the goddamn rules. And my rule is you will not call black women bitches over here. You don't have to agree with it. I don't give a fuck. But you ain't going to do it. So that's the one rule that's going to happen. You can argue, fuss, and fight, but that's the only rule that's going to we're going to adhere to over here is not calling black women bitches. Now, Gary, you can do whatever you want to do. You can open your lines. You can do whatever the fuck. But I think we're going to do the conference call in it. What time you going off?
I'm actually in the next 15 minutes because I don't want to shut off unexpectedly. But, Tyrone, can I say something? You there?
Yeah, I'm here, man. I had to start doing my damn bench presses, man, to straighten this shit out.
It's good for you to listen. And before I open up these lines, this is what I'm talking about. That I hear some, and I'm going to have to really agree with what you say in regards to people complain about what other people do on here, and they tell me that they fight, but there's no fight. If they got a disagreement about what people try to bring information or way how to better people and try to deny it and talk about, say, it's bullshit and all that stuff, then really, don't go by calling to the fucking show. We could agree and disagree, but be respectful. I feel.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get apart. And you know that it's wild over here, and some shows are just off the chain. But if you got a scheduled show that's got a guest, then that's the night that you skip your cussing and shit. You're gonna skip cussing that night and listen to what's going on, or either not listen. It's up to you. But to come on here and just willfully disrupt and cuss and fuss and fight and act stupid, that's crazy. All of us as a black community, we can do that well. We can Jones, we can cuss, we can fuss, we can fight, we can call names, we can make fucking jokes. All of us can do that. We qualified at that. But if somebody's trying to put out some information and you just come in here kicking the goddamn furniture over just for no damn reason, that's just silly to me. So especially if somebody trying to ask you, please don't do that. Please don't do that. And then you persist, then you can go to fucking hell. Because now you ain't trying to pay attention to what the fuck we got going on in our house. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. I don't know what else to say. You don't have to let these motherfuckers back on, or you can let them back on and they can act like somebody with goddamn sense. I don't give a shit. It's up to you.
Yeah. And see, the reason why I'm so patient, and I'm not the dude that like to just kick people off the line, but I'm sitting, listen, and follow and say, I think you're not here to grow or do anything. You're here being destructive because you're sitting there shitting on what the woman brings to the table, and she explained to you, and you're saying otherwise. And when I ask certain questions, you don't answer. It seems like you have an agenda here. Because I'm not going to tell what black people should. Black people should know what the fuck they should be doing already. And if you feel if it's not you're liking what black people should do, then you should go out and do it yourself. It's that simple.
Well, I don't want to just chastise those guys, man. But we just need to let them know that after this show, there's a conference call that you can go over there and you can do whatever the hell you want to do, and I guarantee you won't hear my goddamn voice because that's what the hell they do over there. You cuss, fuss, and fight or whatever. People get mad. Or that's what you do over there. But tonight we had a guest in the title, and she was giving out her information about her book, and we should allow this person to act, since she was invited, to have this time to explain what the hell she was invited over here for, and not listen to some ignorance from people that don't respect whatever the hell we're doing. So I'm done, man. I'll go back in the cut, and you guys do whatever you do.
Okay. So I'm going to open back the lines. Brother G, your lines open? YouTube, Yashua, your lines open?
Yeah, man, that was pretty interesting, man, to come and talk all of that trash, man, but don't want nobody to say nothing back to him. Didn't nobody trash his guest, and didn't nobody disrespect your guest. Your guest was giving out fraudulent information, and when it got challenged, she folded. And then I challenged whoever else on the line to challenge the information I just gave.
Well, go to the conference. It's going to come on in 15 minutes. You get to
if you feel you have any,
you
go to the conference.
And they ain't no
what's the
hold
number?
bar.
I thought this was a conference call. My bad.
No, like I said, but you're making bogus accusations. Nobody disrespected that woman, and nobody said anything.
What's the conference call? Give it out, please.
On the 712.
Yeah, go
Gary. Jamie, what's your conference call number, bro?
770-4160.
Right? Yes.
Yeah,
the conference call number is
712-411-pound.
Are you ready? We're going to do it all over again. Again. The conference call number is 712-770-4160, and you will hear a message, and you will put in the code. The code number is 915411, and the pound sign. That looks like the tic-tac-toe sign. So once again, the number is 712-770-4160. The code is 915-411#.
All right.
They got
you get that, Shark?
Like a little dot.
Cool.
You get that, Shark?
I'm about to call in.
You get that, Shark?
What? Anthony, hold on, bro. Anthony, hold on, bro. What you say, bro?
All right.
Do you get that number?
Yeah, I got it.
Everybody
All right,
good? Now, can I say something?
All right, go over there once the show concludes. All right, Shark? Thank you.
You said code? You need the code?
No, I'd say he got the number, so he'll call over the conference in like two, 3 minutes.
Okay, can I say something real fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
Regarding Dr. Tolagbe, she came on because she was invited to speak, and she comes to educate Black people of all ages. And what she gives to us is information about not taking what you learned in school as the gospel truth, that African people and Black indigenous people of America did fight back. They were not passive. They did win revolts, and we have our own history here of Black men and Black women working together and surviving to this day, because I believe the Gullah Geechee were the only ones in America who were not conquered by Europeans. This woman has worked for years finding research about what really happened in the White House and what's really going on in America to help her people, and she's good at it. I am done.
Hey, Gary, can I say something, Gary? Hey, Gary, can I say something right quick, too?
His line dropped, so if anybody's asking, he'll probably call in the conference in a few minutes, unless the conference up. You can go over there
Gary,
and cuss
can I say something, Gary?
all his shit. Yeah, go ahead. You can say it, man.
No, I just want to say this. Here's the thing. We get a lot of people, and OC brought this up before. We get a lot of cats to come up here and say, fight, and all that. And my point is that, and the sister gets saying, why do we got to broadcast that? If you feel that we should be fighting, you get together with like-minded brothers and sisters who want to do that type of activity. Y'all get together and don't tell us nothing what you want to do, and go and handle your business. But don't come on. My point is, don't come at people and criticize people because they have an opinion or a viewpoint or a certain narrative. My point is, just go do what you do. If you feel that you got the warrior spirit, because that's the warrior spirit. That's my personal opinion. But one thing I try not to do, hold on a second, I try not to, in fact, I try to tell someone else what I think is always right, because everything I think is right, it might not be right. Okay? So that's how we need to look at it. That's called learning. It's called saying you never stop learning. So that's where I'm coming from. But again, these dudes that come on here with this fight mentality, and we need to be my point is, don't come on here and say that. Go out there, organize yourselves, and go and do what you need to do. One thing about the founding members of the Black Panther Party, they didn't talk about it. They just went on and did it. They didn't talk about it. They did it. That's what I got to say.
But you think about this. It's like, I don't mind people have that spirit, but if you're going to come on any airway, for the sake of and then tell people what they bring out is bullshit and fraudulent, then you do the opposite. First of all, if you feel the information is not going to help and you already read, which I know the lady said that, I think her name is Red, where the fuck her name is, says she's well read and versed and all that. So obviously you should be taking this information and take it a step further. Why come on this airway and tell other Black people what the fuck to do? Black people are not going to be on the same accord. If you have a problem with the stabbing of the young sister or seeing the Black violence that happens to us from non-Black people, then you should really do what you think is necessary. Why sitting there criticize what the next person's trying to bring? Because remember, a lot of people are not going to get it, and a lot of people are very ill-educated of the history and our situation in this country and globally. And right now, to tell people don't even bother waste your time and read and all that stuff. I mean, at this time, I think people should be well-versed on everything as possible. I should not be telling people what they should not be doing and what they should be doing. And they should feel in their spirit what they should be doing is right and just. And to sit there watch the next person and then criticize the next person, you wasting time. And you consume a lot of time, my time even doing the show tonight, for even call and disagree to the point you're going to sit there, bash the sign, talking about her shit is bullshit. This woman is in her 60s. She's been through all this and that. She gone through the mud of the so-called de-education for 30 fucking years. So you should have more fucking respect when you call this fucking line.
All right. Now I'm in the show tonight. I'm thinking I'm seated.
Hey, Gary. Before you go,
y'all caught on the fucking conference.
Gary,
Good
before
night,
you
Black
go, I
people.
want to say this.
Listen,
Gary, I want to say this.
He likes to cut
Gary,
off the show.
hold on, Jay. Can I say this to him, please?
All right.
Anyway.
He likes to cut everybody off.
Gary.
That's how he does it.
Gary, no, Gary.
Chaos.
Yes, it's Brother G. Hey, Gary, thank you for broadening the topics, man. Thank you for bringing these different venues to the table.
Yeah.
Appreciate you for that, man.
Thank you for bringing the chaos to the show, man. I like that.
Thank you.
Chaos.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
What was the
All right. And for all people that listen tonight, thank you for listening for tonight's conversation. Tune in next month where we have my guest again. We're going to continue on with the Unconquered, regardless of what people feel like or what they feel the information might not be suitable to them. I don't give a fuck. All I know is you call here, have your pen and pad ready, write and learn. That's all I'm going to say. Good night, Black people.